Evening, y'all. Good to see you. Evening.
Hurt myself just a little bit.
Thank you. Yep. All right, we ready? All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and start and so I had a presentation, and as I often do, I brought my handy Bible with me. Hopes that God would show me down the right path of what exactly I need to say and get across here. So I'm gonna kind of go from the heart instead. We'll start off by pointing out a few things. I think a few of y'all may have gotten this. We have a reentry program at the jail. If you haven't gotten one of these books, I will gladly show you this because I think there's some confusion about what we do and do not have access. Our reentry program lines up people who are incarcerated with services that they need both inside the jail and then once they are released, whether it's addiction recovery, alcohol recovery, drug abuse, mental health services, homelessness, job services, job skills. That's what this program does. And this is a booklet. I can print one for each and every one of you that want one. So you kind of see more about what the sheriff's office does that doesn't necessarily get talked about in the same fashion. So let me kind of start. This will be like a interactive session. And then after that, I'll talk a little bit and then hopefully we'll have some time for some questions and answers after. So I want to start this like seriously. It may not come across the way it's intended for all of you, but I'm gonna do it anyway. By show of hands, I just want to know which of you have been charged with or in a position where you ran security at a courthouse or were charged with operating and running a jail. My hand goes up. Okay. Like we say in the meetings, seeing none, I'll move forward to the next point. So I'll say this. You all absolutely have a right to feel a certain way and always can ask questions. I welcome questions. What you also absolutely should do is actually listen to the one person in any setting who is qualified and experienced to make these decisions, be it courthouse, jail, warrant service, evictions, 2 elections, 2 general elections. Right around 50,000 people had voted and said that I was the person that they want to lead the Clarke County Sheriff's Office. That's not lost on me. I hope it's not lost on any other elected official in this room. We're here because the people decided to put you in this place. As such, I'm disappointed that I feel like when I put forth these efforts to tell you what I need in order to do my job, to keep people safe, to run the day-to-day businesses of the Clarke County Sheriff's Office, I feel like y'all don't even read all the work that I put into it. That's gotta stop. So I'm gonna tag this little sermon that I'm doing, the past is prologue. So instead of like going by all the numbers and saying, hey, I asked for this, you didn't give me that, I'm gonna ask y'all to just go back through history and look at what I have asked you for. And some things we have got. I'm gonna thank you for those. But even some of those things we've fallen short of. First of all, highest on my priority. I keep getting questions, and I've gotten some questions from some of you elected officials. And I don't like calling people out by name until I absolutely have to. But when it comes down to it, some of these questions you have the answers to, or you at least have access to. So when it comes to the recent deaths, without being able to speak in specifics about the results of them, because I don't have them, the question was asked me, what are we doing to mitigate the deaths? My answer to that is everything we possibly humanly can. Furthermore, for 4 years, I have come to you budget season after budget season, in session meetings, out of session meetings, and I've told you, we are short-staffed, critically short-staffed is the word I used. I reflected on other jails that had people dying, that had conditions of squalor. And I said, if y'all don't help me, that's the situation we're gonna be in. And even today, I'm not saying that any of these 2 deaths were a direct result of our staffing. But what I'm saying is, if you wanna know what we're doing everything. And we're asking you to do your part. So when we go down the list, I see all these things. And I've sat back for 4 years. And before that, I was attending and watching commission meetings. But just in my 4 years, I've seen the community come together and fight for the firefighters to be unionized. And they came out and they spoke and y'all voted and we got that going. I've seen the community come together when the librarian said they weren't paid enough. And the community came together and they spoke out and they fought. And guess what? The librarians got a raise. Haven't seen the same thing for the sheriff's office. But time and time again, I have come to you and I said, the reason I can't get my staffing up is because the pay's not what it should be. You all, the pay study set what should be the standard of pay for certified peace officers in Athens, Clarke County. And you all let them decide that my deputies are not the same. And they feel that. So my deputies are short-staffed. And then furthermore, in this game of kick the can down the road that seems to happen a lot, I don't know if y'all read it, if y'all understood, if y'all heard me saying in budgets of past, the courthouse is in disarray. And I let some of that go because I was told, well, we're about to have a new courthouse. Well, guess what? 4 years in, no new courthouse. We don't even have a spot that we're gonna build it on and the money to build what we talked about building. So, pardon my French, I got judges, attorneys, everybody crawling up my ass asking what I'm gonna do. And I'm asking y'all, what are y'all gonna do? Because it's serious. And maybe I wasn't specific enough. Maybe I didn't give you enough details to have you understand that this is serious. But when I say, hey, we need to improve these security measures, when I say we need cameras, when I say we need to make sure that this building is functional, both the jail and the courthouse, it's serious and it's critical to the point that now the courthouse is on emergency status. And I have a critically low staff jail and a critically low staff courthouse. But because the courthouse is an immediate concern, I take people from my critically low staff jail and move them to the courthouse to make sure that people can be a little bit more safe. And then magically, we have a couple deaths. And nobody's willing to see how those deaths happen or what the information is behind those deaths. Not saying this is the case, but it could be as simple as somebody had a health condition that they or nobody else knew about and they dropped dead. It happens every day. This caveat, there is no amount of facts and information and investigation that's going to take away from the fact that anybody dying is a tragedy to that family, to everybody else. But I assert this. Your sheriff is more than adequately equipped to deal with those situations. We deal with the investigation, we deal with the fallout, and I personally deal with the families. Reach out to the families, ask them what I did for them and with them, because I'm not gonna bring them up here and parade them around and say, oh, well, look, can you speak up for me and tell them how nice we treated you and stuff? Because that's not my role. My role is to be responsible to the people that voted me into office. I can tell you this story. I had a person whose child was in my jail. And I can't go into details because it kind of identifies that person. But we had video of exactly what happened. And the medical staff did everything they could do. My team did everything they could do. This person went to the hospital did everything they could do. And his father came to me and he said, I just want to know what happened to my child. So I met with him, just like I do with anybody in a similar situation. And I offered to show that video. And I cautioned him. I said, well, you know, sometimes you think you want to see something and you don't. He made the decision that he wasn't going to watch the full video, but he watched as much as he could. And after that video, we talked about his son and his son's history. He cried, I cried, my chief deputy that runs the jail cried. And after that, when we were talking, this is important because of what he said. It's important because of the feeling behind it. He said, Sheriff Williams, I followed your campaign and I voted for you. And I'm going to vote for you again. That's why I do what I do. And that's why I come before you telling you that just maybe, I have some information, some of it that you don't have, some of it I've given you, but maybe you don't understand it. But I just ask future going, can we talk a little bit more about these things? I'm not just telling you we need these things all willy-nilly. That's not how I do. Yes, we're going to ask for some things that may be different on the hierarchy level of needs. But at the end of the day, I'm not going to ask you for something that's just flippant. There's, oh, it'd be nice if we could do this. Oh, this big picture. When I ask you something, I would really appreciate if you all would strongly consider it and not just put it by the back burner. I understand. We've had our issues, and I can tell you this. I think me and the last manager didn't get along. That is what it is. I'm hopeful that moving forward, we can have a better relationship and work together so that I don't have a manager that thinks that I have to go to the police chief and tell him and get permission to do things that I want to do with my staff. Read the Constitution, read what it says, what a sheriff is. If y'all haven't seen me as a sheriff, y'all about to. I'm gonna be exactly what I'm supposed to be as sheriff. That's not a threat, that's a promise. So in these last few minutes before I open up, because I hope y'all may have a question, or maybe y'all can tell me that y'all gonna do the right thing. Pay is paramount. We have to get this pay to where I can hire people. We're still over 40 slots down, and it's been that way this whole time since that pay study changed. It can't continue this way. I'm telling you right now, in no uncertain terms, more people are going to die if I can't hire more people. Is that clear? By show of hands. If it's not clear, raise your hand and I'll talk some more. Okay. With that said, I don't want to go too theatrical, but I will somewhat put the curse of Felix Unger. If you're not Odd Couple fans, this is how that goes. When a great Odd Couple movie, book, and series. At one point, Oscar is fed up, Felix is fed up, Oscar puts Felix out. Felix finally decides, okay, I'm leaving. And on the way out the door, as he got all the little bags packed, he says, let it be on your head. And Oscar's like, what is that? Well, this is what I'm gonna tell you. If y'all don't help me get my staffing up, the next person that dies in that jail, let it be on your head. The next time one of your Clarke County employees gets assaulted in that jail because of low staffing, let it be on your head. I'm going to deal with the fallout. My team are wonderful and amazing. And we're going to make it work because we do more with less. I need y'all to understand. I know what I'm talking about when I ask things. And it doesn't mean that I expect you to just wave a magic wand, but it's some things when I tell you this is the case, and I can point to other jails that have similar situations, I need y'all to take that seriously. I need y'all to take the situation at the courthouse seriously. When we got rats, we just cleaned another rat out of the cell. We need help. We need your help. Lastly, when it comes to the pay studies, I'm sorry, this is gonna sound like a for real jab, but the commissioners did not need a pay study to give themselves a raise. And I'm not saying y'all don't deserve it. What I'm saying is y'all didn't need to do a pay study to do what common sense told you to do. Questions?
Questions for Sheriff Williams?
I see.
Oh, first of all, I thank you for your service and your openness. And I feel some kind of way because I wish I didn't know what you were talking about. I wish I could ask somebody, what do you mean? What do you mean? But I know how you have come before us in the past, and now we're in this position again. But I guess I just want to say that I hate that I understand. I hate that I relate to what you're saying. I hate it because, and I'm saying that because I truly believe there are some other folk who still don't understand. So I can't promise nothing, but you can walk away knowing that at least one other person who heard you speak knew what you're talking about. So that's it.
All right, and it's about being heard. So I can also say it's at this point, and I know you hear some frustration, you hear some emotion in my voice, but that's because I've absolutely felt alone. And I've got folks, I'm in situations and I don't even get acknowledged as an elected official. Sometimes people speak and everybody else gets acknowledged but me. But I've been in situations. I had an HR director tell me to stay in my lane. I reached out to the governor, Governor Kemp, who's from Athens. And I said, hey, can you help me with this pay thing? And he said, elections have consequences. So I don't know where else to turn. If my commissioners who are in the same county with me won't help me, where do I go for help? I'm sorry. I saw two more. I know Commissioner Myers, I think you had a question or.
Yeah.
Hammond, yeah. I think. I'm sorry.
I know we talked about, what's the cost, the estimated cost for the repairs at the courthouse? It's not in what you requested, correct?
So, yeah, that's not in this request. That's something separate. And I've actually been working with the judges, Judge Lott and Laura Welch have been very instrumental. We should have some numbers in that. We have a quote that's coming up to a proposal that should be forthcoming on that.
Is it $500,000, $1 million, or is it?
So it depends on what. So the camera system is probably going to be for everything about 1.5 to 2 million for that alone. But everything else, but that includes upgrading entry systems. That includes adding cameras to different courtrooms, the parking deck, all that is in that package.
And then, so you got 195 positions approved, but you're down 40.
Yes.
So how long have you been down 40?
We've been down between 40 and 50 really since that pay study.
So,
So,
but the budget
3.5.
195. So is there money left over for not filling those positions?
So this is the deal. 2 years ago, everybody took the salary savings away. Well, I would argue that that's erroneous, especially for an elected official. But I wasn't going after that in this form. But no, we haven't been allowed. And that's why each of the last 2 years, we've had to come to you all for additional money at the end of the year because we didn't have that about $2 million in salary savings.
Just to give perspective on this, we've both been with the county for some time. You can go back and check this. A handful of years ago, the police department gave back the salaries for 10 positions that they were not going to fill in an effort to help the county. The chief at the time said, we're not going to fill these positions. And I've heard from several people that are involved in the budgetary process that money is not the issue with the manpower issue. But magically, when the police department gets a significant amount of rate, gives a significant raise, they don't have that money left anymore. They don't have those positions left anymore because all of them are filled because of a significant raise. There hasn't been any other substantial change at the police department in all those years. And I worked at the police department, it was not fully staffed. But magically, when they get a significant raise, it is fully staffed and has been fully staffed since that time. So just to give what the bottom line that money does, it fills positions and keeps people there.
The 3.5 that you're asking for, that's assuming full staff of 195, is that right?
Are you looking at the capital project budget or?
I mean, the increase of, we're looking at an increase of a total of 3.5, is that right?
Yes.
Is that assuming 100% positions full, all 195%?
So that's a piece of it. To get to that 100, that would be only an increase of a little over $600,000 to get us that pay period. So of that 3 million, only 300,000 of that, 600,000 of that would be for the salaries. And for sworn officers compensation. While at this point, in contrast, we're spending about 2 million at least each year just on overtime.
But that's assuming you have 195 people, is that right?
Correct.
Okay. That's what.
Yes.
So,
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead, John.
So he was budgeted for 195, he's at 155, where's that money? Does that go to the fund balance?
So it's general fund expense. At one point, we allocated overtime by department. Now we have a large overtime pool. Am I saying that correctly?
A little bit of this, a little bit of that. There is departmental overtime, including with the sheriff. And then there's a pool derived from raises that supplements overtime to account for how much raises would have been or are.
Have an overtime line item in your budget.
So we have 3 overtime line items. So yeah, so we have the court, we have the field, and we have the jail.
Anything else, John?
No, thank you. Thank you for your service.
First, Sheriff, thank you, and thank you for speaking so from your heart. I heard you. I'm just looking at these papers that we're distributing, and I'd have to apologize, but we see tons of requests from tons of departments all the time. And so my very simple question is, I see one page that says there's a shortage of 100,607.56. But I need help understanding what line items. Is
So-
it in here somewhere that I'm missing?
It should be, and if it's not, we can clarify that. But for instance, I'll say, you all did a great job. You helped us with medical contracts. So we got a great medical contract. But the amount the contract came in for is not what we were actually funded for. So we asked for another 1.35 just to cover the additional medical costs that we haven't. And what's recommended in the budget is $177,000.
Can you get us, this is what I need. So I know what the numbers are, is what you're talking about, the shortfalls are. What's in the mayor's budget, what in your best. C11.
Some of that should be in there.
Oh, in there. I thought it was in here.
That's extrapolated. This
Yes,
is short, this
that's
is
correct.
good notes.
Exactly. I'm sorry. Yes. Thank you.
It's like bingo. See,
Exactly.
I had my budget book down so I could focus on it.
Yeah.
There, C11.
And I absolutely appreciate your attention. So no problem, no harm there.
So, Sheriff, one thing that when we had our first budget meeting, one thing that I mentioned to my colleagues that we want to make sure that we look at trying to staff, we'll definitely start a salary, the same thing, ACCPD.
Mhm.
So, we're trying to look at the money to do that, make sure that we can, at least we start salaries, so that can be equitable
Yeah.
with ACCPD and Sheriff Department. I think we, fair thing to do, that's the right thing to do, from my opinion. So, one thing that we'll be looking at as we look at this budget as we move forward.
If that works, that'll be a big help.
Oh,
Some of the adjustment. Oh, no, well, the study is going to be completed. in July.
None of it will be complete, but what my recommendation is gonna be,
I was gonna ask if we could not, we don't need the study, like he said, I agree, he's been asking for years.
my recommendation is gonna be, once we start looking over things, that we go ahead and fund starting salaries for the sheriff department. And that's something that we'll take up, consider moving.
And to be clear, that's the equity adjustment for sworn officers compensation at
615.
And if I can remember right, from last year, that we put that money aside, but we did not move forward with it. So again, we'll take a look.
Thank you, Commissioner Davenport.
Commissioner Davenport.
Thank you. Thank you, Sheriff, for the presentation. We have a bias for our police department. I think
I think there's a lot of people have a bias for the police department, but I also argue that the Constitution says you have to have a sheriff's office. And fund both,
there you
gotta fund the
go.
sheriff.
Sheriff, I agree with that. I do thank you for, service, but I do have a lot of family who work in the sheriff department, and not just the pay that's the issue. But I do have a question about the medical services in the jail. You're asking, 177 is recommended and 1.35 is requested. Can you explain? We voted on the new medical contract about 2 years ago. And I thought that was gonna cap the cost of medical services in the jail, as well as how much money are we still paying Piedmont at the region for sending inmates to the hospital as well?
So that we negotiate the Medicaid rate for those instances, but as far as our contract, what I'm saying is, yes, y'all did approve a contract which was for about 4.5 million. We've not had either of these years that full 4.5 million put into our budget. So we've been about that 1.3 million short of just paying that contract annually.
Oh, she walked out.
Yeah, okay, Commissioner Thornton.
I guess.
So how is it paid? Does your account go into the negative? I mean,
It goes in the negative, we move things around, and then at the end of the year, we come back and say, hey, we're this short.
And also that cost changes based on our average daily population. If that number exceeds a certain number,
Mhm.
that cost goes up.
I'm aware, it's like a per diem on each individual over 400, is that correct?
Over 450.
450. So I'm curious, we have some departments that have, like, throughout the year, we'll have a special agenda for a transfer of funds to increase their budget for their expenditure needs that's gone over. Why we've not done that or has that been done
We've done that before.
for the sheriff's office?
So towards the end of the year is when it's been told that it needs to be done.
Yeah, that's towards the end of the year, that's right, but like we've seen departments come, well, I have Drew, at 6 months, HR, like for safety and risk, they're at least 2 times a year over budget. In the last few years, they'll come before, not us, but before me, but for an approval to increase the expenditure line item. And so I'm just curious why it hasn't.
So this is what I can tell you, Commissioner, and right now, we did get approved for a position for basically a management analyst. That's our person that works with our budget, right? She's in the back of the room, Ms. Denise Barnes, and she's been working with us, and it's really our staff just working hand in hand with finance. That's the only reason that we're not in the negative more often during the year. And we managed to make ends meet up until that last month or two. Right now, we got 2 months left and we're about at 93% of our budget.